Welcome back, guys. This is your average esports podcast, episode 34. With me is Skim, who now has video, right?
Yeah, I have a
So,
webcam. Woo.
come back out of the dark ages
Yeah.
with webcam. So this time we're only going to talk about primarily two events, two big ones though for Dota 2 and CS:GO. The first one, we'll go over the first one because that one's finished in Dota. So Epicenter, last major of the year, right before
Or the season, rather.
for this season, right? Because I keep
Yeah,
forgetting. Like in my mind, like Dota has different years than the rest of the Western world, right?
pretty much.
It goes from
Yeah.
DPC to DPC. So, yeah, this is the last one, and surprise. I've got there were a few surprises here. So you want to go from top to bottom or from bottom to top? Do you have a preference?
We can go from bottom to top. I think that's always more interesting because, yeah, that's always more interesting. So I guess the biggest surprise for everybody really was Evil Geniuses dropping out in the first round.
I mean, I thought it was over the second I saw OG and I heard No Tail was in the hospital. I was like, oh my god, this is the
Wait,
anime shit they were born for.
I have to play with a coach again? Damn.
Because
Um,
nothing fires up that team than eliminating Fly out of the tournament.
yeah.
Like nothing else.
I will say, and I think this is something that's worth noting, that EG played shit even going into that into those playoffs.
Yeah, they were not
That
good in the groups at
group
all.
stage was awful. The group stage was awful. I mean, yeah, you 2-0 infamous, which is no everybody 2-0 is infamous.
That's not an
But I mean,
accomplishment.
they got spanked by Liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Gambit showed them up too. So at that point, it was I feel like at the point where you had OG versus EG in a best of one, it wasn't that unrealistic that EG would get eliminated. I think in the
Mm-hmm.
grand picture, yeah, it's sort of like out of the ordinary for them to get eliminated, but at that point, it really wasn't that special anymore. And EG just honestly really weird timing to have an off performance like that, because I think the next time we'll see them, there's like an online tournament not announced yet that's happening in July, but that's it.
I don't really care about online tournaments.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird to have this bad of a performance now.
I think it's the perfect time because now because nobody remembers this, but there's still a PPD vengeance yet to be had against EG at TI, right? And
He never had it. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, and I personally I keep bringing this up, even though I keep bringing this up because like nobody else is willing to, but I just don't think Fly's ever really done it for me at a TI as a leader.
I mean, he has yet to prove it. I think you know this team,
Like if you
or
even if
if
you look at
this,
the last TI when they got third, he
yeah,
was leading the meta, or EG was leading the meta, but they weren't able to adapt at the right moment.
and realistically speaking, I say this even though there's a lot of like talented teams out there, but we are talking about a team that has Arteezy, Sumail, and S4 in it, and
Yeah,
Crit, I guess, if you want to go
like
like the whole
like
mile.
this is technically the team that should have Sumail and RTZ work at the same time because you got S4.
And not only that, but that's a team that should be in the top three at any given tournament.
Literally third though every single
Yeah,
time
unfortunately for them, yeah.
for most of the times, I guess. Yeah.
So I guess this is something they have to work on now in the break leading up to TI. Maybe this is a good timing for them to have like this off performance because that gives them the extra motivation to work on these things. But I honestly don't expect them to necessarily do well at this TI. Like I feel like this could be, and like I don't think they're necessarily better than they were last year. Um, so I think this could be actually just a worse TI for them.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if you saw it, but PPD did an interview with Richard Lewis,
With
right?
Richard, yeah,
Yeah, and basically, he went a little bit more into detail as to why they split up, and basically he said, "I told them to practice, and they didn't want to practice."
yeah,
And if that is still true to this day, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it's possible, right? If that's true to this day, then I don't. There's no reason for me to believe it unless a patch like literally saves them, which is possible. It's happened before.
it has happened before. It might happen again. Um, but the thing is, like to me, or EG and their players have never been like patch necessarily not haven't necessarily been patch heavy teams where I'd say, oh wow, this patch like 100% saved them, or this patch 100%
Yeah,
carried them.
that's because they don't have really weird players. So,
Yeah,
like, if you have
and
really weird players, that happens more often.
if anything, to me, it's always been the other way around, where they have been the ones to figure out a patch and be like, all right, we're just making this patch a bitch, when which wasn't necessarily even with them at the helm of it, but more so when PPD was there too. Although I still think that the whole like playing, Naga and SF mid, like these carry type plays for Arteezy were definitely driven by Arteezy himself.
I think it was like
Um,
it was a combination of, as far as I know, it was a combination between PPD and RTZ, or like PPD was like literally sold RTZ on the idea. It's like, oh shit, I get all the gold. It's like, yeah, you get all the gold. I am so down, and I think that's how it went.
Potentially. Either way, I don't think, even if there's like a weird patch coming, EG's not the type of team to just suddenly be like, all right, we can abuse this shit like over and over again. No.
Yeah, like I
There are
think,
other teams out there for
yeah, I
sure that
think when
falls in that
OG did it
category.
as I think we find
Like,
out post split, most of the ideas are coming from No Tail and Seb,
yeah.
right?
So
So that kind of
yeah.
that's like another thing that kind of hurts Fly. And I say all this as if like Fly's a bad captain. He's actually just out of my top X of all time. Like he's just right there, but not in it.
He would have to win TI this time around, and even then, I wouldn't necessarily. I'm not even sure if I
Like
would
it
put him in the
depends on how
top.
he wins TI.
Yeah, that's a good
Like
point.
if he does it like how PPD did it, because PPD like basically like drafted his way into victory there,
Oh.
right? So that's kind of why like PPD is in forever. But yeah, I think that's my biggest problem with. I won't say my biggest problem with EG is just like it's just the same problem they've always had. Like they still don't have they don't have that extra something that pushes them above,
Yeah.
and they don't want to admit it. But I think PPD was that extra something.
Well, um, yeah.
At times he could be. He certainly is for like
For
Optic and
other
an
teams right
NIP.
now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, there goes EG out instantly. Then let's see here. You want to talk about Secret
Fnatic,
getting oh Fnatic. Okay, let's go with Fnatic.
Fnatic,
Fnatic is trash.
Fnatic also absolute trash. I hear, and oh, no, it's actually official, right? That they made roster changes. Is it official?
I don't know. Let me check the
I'm not
Wikipedia.
sure.
That's like the most official source I have.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's
MP
official.
is out. Jabs is in.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Or
well,
not, Dubu
Dubu
is
is
in
in.
and Jabs is
Dubu is
one.
in. Yeah. So they made a roster change, which I think is fair. I think this team was not going to perform at TI, and it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me. And I've made this point on Twitter, by the way, and a couple of people disagree with me, but I still stand by it. So I think this reminds me very much of the Mineski and Faceless lineups from the previous 2 years,
Oh, I
seasons.
know exactly what you mean.
The fact that yeah they dominate their own region, but then they put like they're not that great internationally. Yeah, Fnatic had a couple of like top six performances. Yeah, sure. I think this Fnatic lineup should get top six performances given their lineup, but that was really their ceiling. And then they had the TI spot secured, and unlike what they did last year or even the season before that, they this time around they decided to make a roster change, and I think it's smart because Mineski last year they bombed out of TI. They ruined all the chances they had at getting a good TI placement by sticking to the roster simply because they were scared of losing their TI spot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I
That
think
that fear is
I
no
think it's
longer
just
here. So
yeah. I don't know. I'm just not a big a fan of these teams. I mean, I understand why it's a lot of money, but these teams that just like, oh, we just need to get to TI, and like I don't care if we're just gonna like bomb out last place or whatever. Like ultimately, that's what it has to be because these teams, you cannot tell me if you're shit for 6 months of the year going into TI, but you have the TI spot secured that you think to yourself, well, surely at TI we're gonna show up and be a completely different team. No, you have to realize they're gonna be shit too. So I am a big fan of this roster of a roster change. I'm
I won't
not
say this is
actually.
the roster change,
I
but I
don't think this
am
is the roster change either.
like I've never seen Jabs play one. What do you want me to say?
He has played mid before, so that kind of works out. He's played sort of like carry-ish positions before, so um that's not bad. I think the biggest upside to this transfer is the fact that they have Dubu now. I think Dubu has good experience as sort of a five position slash leader. I mean, he was the coach for the team as well, so he knows the team too.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, I mean, my problem with this team has always been leadership. So if they can sort of like alleviate some of that and put that onto Dubu and take it away from Ice and Jabs, I think this could work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I do want this team to win just because I think Pal's on this team, right, as the analyst, right?
He is their analyst, yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think here's the thing. I just don't know. Like, how many times is SEA going to trick me into thinking they actually have a good team? Like, I keep getting tricked.
Oh, there is a
There
legitimate
is a
good
good
team,
team.
though.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But I
We'll get
mean,
to that point.
I'm talking about like this. I'm talking about like
Huh. You have to ask
Fnatic.
the
Right?
question. No, you have to ask yourself the question: how often is ISS going to convince you and trick you
Hey
into
man, that
believing that
Vici
he's
roster
built a
was
good team?
legit. I don't give a fuck.
No, no, no. Ever since he's returned to SEA, he's built rosters, and there's a reason why I named these three rosters because he's been part of all three of them.
Oh yeah, he
And
has.
like, as much as I love ISS and as much as I think he is one of the best offlaners in the world, maybe even the best offlaner
He might be
Dota2
the
has ever
greatest
had,
offlaner of all time.
he might be, but that doesn't change the fact that he's been part of these three teams and that he has like a very sort of like decisive role in those teams, and that they all have the same problem. Like, if he's literally, he and Jabs are the only thing all these three rosters have in common, and quite frankly, I don't think Jabs is the problem because, well, he doesn't really. Jabs
It's not
doesn't
that
really belong.
he's not the solution though.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He's not the
So I
problem
don't know.
nor the solution. It's
I
just
think ISS needs a little bit needs a little bit of time to reflect. Maybe go back to China. I don't know. Um,
that's your answer. Go back to China. Be good again.
yeah,
Be on a good
let
team
let,
again.
let SEA let SEA struggle by themselves.
Yeah, man. We'll see. I think ISS has already hit that period in his career where he doesn't where he probably feels like he's accomplished everything except
Yeah, I don't
TI
think he.
and except bringing a C team to greatness. So
I don't see that driving him either right
yeah,
now. I just don't see that driving him to like absolutely win everything. I feel like if he would wanted to, he would probably wouldn't be playing in ACA right now because he doesn't have any language issues. Or rather, I know why he's not leaving regions or region hopping like other players. He has a kid, he has a family. There's a lot of like reason behind why he stays in SEA or why he stays in Asia.
hmm
But at the same time, if his decision if his decisions were career driven, he would not make these rosters probably. He would probably
play in
try
Europe by
somewhere
now.
else. And I'm sure there are teams interested in him. I mean, who wouldn't want to play with Ice, generally speaking?
Man.
Um, I say that, but I don't know or don't know all of his circumstances, but I'm convinced that most of his decisions right now are driven based on his family and his kid, which I absolutely respect and understand. And it's not like, I mean, we're talking about we're talking about somebody that has already accomplished so much, somebody who's already earned so much, and then somebody who's also right now still
Like
like,
this guy, if he whenever he's done with his career, he's like first ballot Hall of Fame, right?
first of all that, and second of all, like, we're talking about Fnatic, like, they're trash. They are trash, but in a grand scheme of things,
hmm
like, they are still probably like a top 16 team in the world, but just not as good as they probably should be. So I do think this is a team that's going to implode after TI. Like, there's no way this is going to stay. The roster is going to stay. Abed and DJ, in my opinion, are way too good to not be contesting titles pretty much every tournament. So I think, although DJ, as far as I know, also has the same problem as ISS says, he has like family ties that he doesn't want to let go of. Whatever. But
So maybe
I,
that's new coupling Ice and DJ.
maybe. All I know is that I think Abed, because of how young he is and considering he has been to NA before, I think for him the world is an oyster.
Open. Yeah,
It's very
but
open. But yeah,
the Abed thing's just tough. Like, who would he even play with?
I don't know.
Because
PPD
I don't PPD. PPD is going to be the answer. Maybe.
could be the next Sumail.
Yeah.
I say that even though Abed has already proven himself to be a really good player, but
Yeah.
I think I just think that these players are too good not to be playing for titles, or at the very least be consistently like top six. Like,
Yeah.
if Fnatic had placed top six at every major this season, I'd be like, yeah, all right, that's kind of cool. Still sort of like underneath their ceiling, but it's whatever. There's like really strong European teams right now. It kind of makes sense, but the fact that they're not even placing top six consistently is just really unfortunate.
Yeah. That just hurts. Like that's at least that should have been like their bottom of what
Yeah,
you expected from a roster this good, but nothing's really outside of like one tournament. Nothing's really gone their way. So
pretty much.
all right. Quickly, I'll just skip over it. RNG, Ford, you're both bad.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever, let's move on with our lives. Gambit, pretty good, all things
Not
considered.
bad. Not bad.
I think this is exactly where they should be though. Like a dangerous upset team, but they're not gonna go far, right?
They should not have any problems in the CIS qualifiers. I say that even though it's CIS is crazy, but to me right now they're the second best CIS team, and maybe on a different in a different format they maybe still clinch a spot at TI and maybe edge out like Keen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would have loved to see them play Keen too, and that's kind of the unfortunate issue of having these regions with this restricted spots per event, because we haven't really seen Gambit play too many teams at the top. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
seen them play a lot of teams at this point now, but not necessarily like they've not consistently been performing against these top teams. So we can't really tell if they're really better than Keen. Right now, probably they are, but in general, who knows?
Yeah.
So it's super unfortunate for them. Like this, honestly, the whole best of three against the Lions could have gone either way too. Um, so I think overall, Gambit should hopefully they make TI and hopefully they continue their run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talked about the before this event that question mark whether or not Gambit could make it or whether or not Gambit was really going to be strong or not. And I mean, I certainly didn't expect them to do this well. I didn't think they would do this well and come this close to getting a spot at TI. I thought they would drop out like a round earlier against NIP.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I think overall just about what you'd expect them
Yeah,
considering personally. I think Alliance, same deal actually. Like, yeah, it was a good run, but if you just look at the run, right? Like, did they really beat anybody like crazy besides like the first Virtus Pro match? Not really.
pretty much.
Infamous
I,
RNG, like Gambit, I
but
think is on their level, and then they lost to VP again. So
and I think the two losses to VP because they also lost against VP again in the group stage
mm-hmm.
just shows where they are right now. I think so. The panel even had a discussion. What teams do you rank as tier one? Like to me, Alliance isn't tier one just yet. But it feels like they're like the ultimate gatekeeper of that tier right now. If you beat them consistently, you're probably a tier one team. But like if you can't beat them consistently, you definitely aren't a tier one team. Alliance right now is like clinging towards that tier one. I think they're like clawing their way up there. But like you said, the fact that they didn't even need to win against some of these top teams kind of also shows where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it's almost even a little bit lucky considering the fact that they got their spot at TI, all things considered. But at the same time, they also literally had the hardest road out of all the teams.
Yeah, I
They
mean
constantly had to
because they play
face
in Europe,
Secret,
so it's like
Liquid, NIP, OG for spots, and yeah,
yeah, like not much
it's
they can do about
impressive.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, not OG so much because the OG didn't like get it into gear until
Oh,
later.
true. But at the end, that was a little bit iffy because then suddenly you had to constantly play OG at the minor too.
Yeah.
So definitely, Alliance definitely earned their spot at TI, and I feel somewhat like
Vindicated.
not to pat myself, it kind of vindicated because I called it out at the beginning of the season, right? That this is like a team to watch.
And I
And
was like, nah, man, look at how fucking tough EU is.
halfway through, I kind of gave up on them too, but I'm glad that they pulled through because some of these players, I think, have a bright future. I will never stop talking about how insane he is one of the best captains in Europe, in my opinion, and maybe even in the world. Like I think he has the potential to be like a top 5 captain in Europe right now, or in the world, rather. In Europe, I mean, he pretty much is a top 5 captain already.
Yeah, like I don't even know who you put him above in Europe.
No, but I think in among the active captains, I think he has potential to be like a top 5 captain.
Let's see
But
here.
this is like a bold
Like
claim right
does
now.
that
I
even
think
count coaches or not?
I wouldn't count coaches necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But that's something. I think he still has to prove himself, like at TI, and then also beyond this group, this
With this
particular
group of
group of
players, he's
players.
only played with this group of players, right? So it's
Yeah,
hard to know exactly.
so it's hard to make the call. But looking forward to see them at TI.
All right, so let's talk about the failed princes of China, FY's crew, LGD.
FY's crew.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. What your thoughts? I'm curious because
I think I think I might have said this at some point, but I feel like if anybody should have been removed, it should have been Ame,
Yep.
right? And like, I think like, here's the thing. I won't say he was like overrated last year, but I thought there were clear flaws in his game, and those flaws are like being more and more pronounced as time has gone on.
I look, I will never not remember his play at TI where he as Morphling was so cocky and then he died in OG's base. And look, there were so many mistakes that game from LGD. There were so many moments and big plays from OG that it's difficult to say this is the one thing that cost them that game and ultimately the series. But that game, that play was so unnecessary and so big for OG at that point in time that I do think that that was the thing that threw away that game and the series ultimately.
Like,
So I think he is like I 100% agree with you that he is sort of like the weakest link yeah,
yeah, I think
the
he's the
weakest
weakest
link.
link. Like, I've got no complaints about X Nova. Obviously, no complaints about FY. I still think Chalice is good. I still think maybe he has his moments. Like, it's got to be Ame, right?
And to me, LGD is another one of those teams where the fact that they qualified for TI kind of um, disguised the fact that they probably needed a change too. I'm not necessarily the guy that wants to solve every problem with roster changes, but I feel like this roster has run its course, and they haven't necessarily gotten better either throughout the season. Like, if it was part of an evolution where they got at least better this season, I would have understood. But if anything, they got worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they should have made a roster change maybe like even 2 months ago, but they're sticking it out. And I think this to me is a little bit reminiscent of Newbie when they stuck together after the TI7
Oh
run,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
They stuck together. They had a couple good
I
performances
was
still
so pissed
throughout
when
the
newbies
season,
stuck together.
but then they decided, oh, you know what? Let's just write this out, even though there's clearly a problem with this lineup, and they stuck together. And I mean, I don't even know what they placed at that TI. That's how
That's how
irrelevant they
bad
are.
it was. Like, they didn't even matter that Ti.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put it this way, because like, I think here's the thing. I don't think I don't necessarily know how players think about it, but like if it like a captain, like, you know how sometimes they talk to captains about whether or not you should change rosters. I think you should always ignore that, because I think um basically every captain should follow the Fallen's playbook. And if you don't know what Fallen's playbook is, in 2016 through 2017, Fallen consistently found the right player to kick every single time, right? But at the same time, he constantly told other teams, "Oh, Liquid, what are you doing, man? Adren is one of the best captains in NA. You should totally keep him. He does so much for you guys." You go to Virtus Pro, like, "Man, you guys are fucking legends. Always stick together." He always do this bullshit, right? Because like in his
Yeah.
mind, he knows like this is the game, right? So like, I don't know what exactly these captains are thinking. Because if they're all following the Fallen playbook, then bravo. Like, I think that's fucking genius. But personally speaking, I think like like a bunch of these people who are talking about, oh, you should never split up the roster, etc., etc. I think they've gone too far the other way. Like, obviously, you don't need to go fucking internal envy. Do it like every day, every week.
Right.
But
Right.
like, there are times where it's like pretty clear you've run through most of the ideas, and at that point you need to make a switch. Like I said, Liquid ran out of ideas like 6 months ago, right? And
Yeah,
now here
and
we
you were
are.
right on the money. You were right on the money. And this is also, again, I know we've talked about this a lot already, but this is one of the reasons why I always praised PPD for the fact that he kicked AOI after they won TI.
Yeah, man. It's,
Because
it's
there were
actually
limitations.
a much more merciful decision than what Kuroki did in Matumba Man.
Yeah, not only that, but I think there were limitations for that lineup even during their TI win. Right,
Yeah,
there were heavy limitations for that lineup during their TI win.
that was
They
like
need like
they not
their
only needed a great outdraft, but like they also needed a right patch.
they needed the night. They needed the right patch. They needed. There's so many things that needed to come together for them to win that TI, and don't want to take anything away from them because they all played their fucking minds out. And some of those things only worked because of AY, but they should like he realized that after that patch, AY's career was going to be over because never again or very unlikely again was there going to be a patch that could work so well in AY's favor. And I mean,
And it's true.
I
Like
love the guy,
AUI
but
has like stopped
yeah,
existing, right?
where's his career been ever since? He's been a coach. Like he clearly couldn't find himself in the team anymore, and I think PPD realized that at
I
that
can't even
point.
find himself a right role, because like there's no good role for him anymore in the
Yeah.
game.
So I think yeah, the greatest captains in my book realize when their lineups have run its course or run their course, and when they make the right decision to get the right player, which I guess is a good segue to Liquid,
Sure, all
because they
right.
did
Because basically they're at second now, so
yeah. because they did change their roster. Like we mentioned, they dropped Matuma Man, they picked up Weeha,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that Matuma Man started training Wind Ranger in pubs after that was announced, kind of goes to show that Liquid might have made the right decision because their playstyle is so vastly different. It's incredible.
They've got a
This is a
lot of
completely
new
different team.
looks.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of good looks too. Like it might be too early to tell how far they can go with this lineup just because it was just one
One
tournament
tournament, yeah.
and people need to get used to them. But I think the foundation is already there. The fact that they can play so many different lineups now and just super aggressive lineups too. Because with Matuma Man, they always had to play around objectives. They had
Yeah,
like
he's like an
those.
objective-based player. Or actually, I don't know if that's true, but like they force him to become a player like that, at least.
Well, but that's also based on his hero pool.
Yeah,
Like Lycan, Broodmother. I don't know.
Vino.
Yeah, all these heroes. Whereas with Weeha, they had such an aggressive hero pool. Sure, there's the meme about Weeha playing Wind Ranger all the time, but still,
There's his
it
TA, there's his Meepo,
there's
there's
yeah,
like all that shit.
even his Ember, and that's a cool thing. Now they can pick Ember. Who's gonna play it? Is it Miracle Ember? Is it Weeha Ember?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. If they picked Ember before with Matuma Man, I mean,
It's obvious.
99 out of 100 cases, it is Miracle. And in the one case where it is actually Matuma Ember Spirit, you're not really that worried because he's not that great at Ember Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, Team Liquid looked like a great team out there, and it. I'm not sure if Weeha is the long-term solution. Realistically speaking, they had to pick up Weeha right now because there was no other play available.
Yeah, I mean, you picked out a few other players, but like, eh. I think we hot.
Nothing would have been great, and I think Weeha
Yeah,
might just be the best solution right now.
yeah,
But long term, I do think this was a good change for them because they everybody had figured them out already,
yeah.
and there's only so much you can win by just being like the superior team in terms of coordination and communication, which I think they were in a lot of cases. I think the fact that they still did
They still got
decently
that
well this
like that
season.
second they got. That was actually like a fucking miracle run, and that basically shows like their teamwork coordination is vastly superior to
Yeah,
almost everybody.
exactly.
And that took fucking everything
So,
though.
and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why they stuck it out for so long because they thought they could overcome everybody else by just being like the superior team, but very clearly that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a power play to win TI again. Not sure if it's going to be enough on time, but they have like 2 months time now to drill Weeha into
Like,
becoming like the player they want him to be.
listen, man. After OG1, I believe anything is possible.
Very
Literally
true.
anything is possible at
Maybe
TI.
Pain Gaming is going to win it. Who knows?
Okay, actually, you're right. You're right. And not everything is possible. Every not that is literally impossible.
How about TNC though? We kind of skipped them, but I think this is worth talking
All
about
right,
TNC.
so let's talk about the long lost Liquid member, Heen.
Keen.
Potential, potentially the most impactful coach we've seen ever since Boba entered the scene. Right? Has there ever been like a coach like the second he joined the team, but like what the fuck? This team like leveled up instantly. I've never
It's
seen a
truly
coach
impressive.
besides Heen do it.
It's very impressive. So just to preface this, I mean, we will praise Heen a lot here, but I also will talk later about why I think it's not just Heen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Heen has added so much to this team, and you can definitely tell that there's a lot of changes towards this team when it comes to playing and just like general decision making. Like this team right now, you know how people used to say like, "Oh, TNC, they're like super aggressive, they're like," and like SEA Dota in general, like caveman Dota, like the whole like, "Oh, they're super like undisciplined, they're like ruthless, they're like just rushing you," all that kind of shit. That doesn't apply to this team anymore. Like this team is actually legitimately like, the way they've played this tournament. If they can keep this up, and you have to consider that this is a progression too. It's not just this tournament. They placed fourth at Mumbai. They placed fifth to sixth at Birmingham, playing really well in Secret, by the way, at that
Playing
tournament,
against
which
the
I
two
think is
best
super
teams.
impressive.
That's how they got knocked out.
Exactly, and in general, the only times they lost were against top four teams, I think,
Yeah, pretty
except for
much.
Keen or something. I don't know. Um, so this is a progression for this team. If they keep this progression up, I genuinely think this is a top four, top six contender at TI.
Like here's how I'd put it. Right? Have you ever heard of Plato's metaphor for the cave? All right.
No.
All right. So basically, Plato is like the philosopher. back in Socrates' day or whatever. He basically
Right.
says all people basically says ideas are like basically all of society is just a bunch of people standing around a fire looking at a cave wall, and then they see
Right.
shadows on the cave wall, and those shadows are like refractions of reality, right? Like of the pure ideal of like what a chair is. And then you see like the shadow of the chair,
Right.
like all these different values, right? And basically, TNC were those people looking at this fucking wall, right? And they were in this cave. They were in this cave, looking at the shadows on the wall. They're like kind of vaguely, we kind of know how to play Dota, but not really. And then one day, a man comes back into the cave. His name is Heen, one of the original cavemen of the cave, and he shows them, no, these are the actual images of how you play Dota. And they turn around like, oh my god, there's fucking light out there. And then they fucking walk out and they learn how to play Dota, learn how to draft, all that good shit. And that's basically what happened in TNC. Because I think I don't know if anybody's ever I don't think anybody has ever disparaged TNC's raw talent, right? Like I don't think anybody's ever said, you know what, Gabby, Armel, Cuckoo, Tims, you guys can't play at the top level. No, literally everybody has said these four guys could play at the top level for like what, 1 to 2 years.
Ever. Forever. Or like for the last couple of years for sure.
But they have fundamentally never actually gotten the team results because it's a team game and they don't know how to play as a team. Like the only times they ever learned how to play as a team was when they just ran people over, right? Because like it's very obvious what you're supposed to do as a team in those situations in general. But Heen came in and is like, these are the actual images of how you play Dota. As one of the first men to leave the cave to join Liquid and then come back, right?
Right.
That's kind of where this metaphor is going. And obviously, like, I think it's obviously too simplistic to say like Heen was the one that like Heen is like the most important factor. I don't think that's the case in the sense that I think players play the game. I think if you gave him like a bunch of shit players, Heen could not get. I'll put it this way: like Heen could not like resurrect Eternal Envy or something. He couldn't do that. Like he can't resurrect like a bunch of these like bad players anymore. But because these guys already have the inherent talent, Heen just comes with the fundamentals, teaches them, and then they're good.
Yeah. Also worth noting that AO came back to the roster earlier this year. This year. I think he joined in like March or something, just before Heen actually came in. He was also part of that TI 6 run with Jimmy. Like this team, I know this is like these platitudes. You know, they are young because I mean I think this is worth highlighting. These are some of the very young players, and like some of these players don't necessarily have. I'm looking at Gabby here, for example. Gabby doesn't necessarily have that rich of an experience or richer experience like playing on big stages, right? He's I think with Clutch and even with TNC, yeah, he's traveled here and there, but that's not a lot in comparison to some of these other teams. Cuckoo Tims are at this point pretty much veterans, I guess.
Like
Same with
that's fucking crazy
Armel.
if you think about it. Cuckoo and Tims are your veterans.
Yeah, but these are still young players. I mean, I think Armel is just not even 20 yet. Like these
Yeah.
these guys are still like
Like the average age
young players.
on this crew is like 19. Like I think Cuckoo and Tims are like 21 or something.
Yeah, it's absolutely goddamn crazy how young these players still are. So, I think, and this is why I personally highlight the fact that Heen, or I like to highlight the fact that Heen is such a big part. Is the fact that they just needed a lot more experience from even outside, just from outside. Heen comes in, has been coaching Liquid, has been playing and living with some of the best players in the world, has been traveling all over the world, talking to some of the best players in the world, while TNC might not even have been able to travel this like
Like
crucial before
he's
they
like
joined.
like here's the thing about Dota. Like nobody, if you're talking about professional Dota, right?
Right.
Nobody, as far as I can tell, nobody's actually articulated actual concepts. Like they very rarely do it,
That's
and
true.
I'm not sure why. And if I had maybe it's like partly just beneficial. Like for instance, let's say like if you talk to like Seb, right? Like basically when I talked to Seb, he talked about why he stopped doing his blog post like years ago, because
Right.
years ago, like that was like the easiest way to get information was from his blog post about top Dota, because he's the only guy like articulating it. And then you realize, oh shit, I basically just gave the playbook of how you're supposed to think about Dota
For
away.
free.
right?
for free.
And so basically all the captains came to the agreement. We can never allow this information to get out, right? And so this is actually why I think like captains are way overpowered in Dota. It's because they're the only ones who can actually articulate these concepts, but they don't actually do it in like a. They don't actually ever truly do it to their own players. Like they just tell them what to do in general,
I mean,
or vaguely into the directions of where you should go, right?
yeah.
And
It's
so
like the
that's
whole
why I
like.
think.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, when I talk to Heen, he's like one of those guys who can actually conceptualize these things.
Yeah. It's like one of those, you know how the saying goes, like teach a man how to fish and he'll like live, like feed himself for like whatever forever, basically, right?
Yeah, assuming
But that's the
the fish don't
problem.
die.
Yeah, but you can't. Like that's the problem as a captain. If you teach them how to fish, they don't need you anymore.
You can never teach them how to
Or
fish.
effectively, you kind of have to like lure them into the water, make sure they execute it properly, but they don't necessarily have to understand on like 100% level, like on a like deepest level, why they do certain things, right? As long as they understand how to do them and when to do it. And obviously, I'm not saying that every captain is just like hiding his own ideas and like philosophies from his own
I mean,
players.
if you're thinking about it as like a professional level, it actually makes sense just competitively. Like you don't want to overload your fucking star players with all this information. It's not helpful.
Yeah, you don't and need to know that either. Like that's just the way the game works. Like oftentimes, like the players don't necessarily need to understand the grand vision of the game as long as you're still in the communication with them. As a coach, yeah, then you'll have to like teach them everything because
Like,
you're not in the server with them.
like here's the example I put. Like, both Puppy and Kuroki fundamentally understood how every secret player should have played in the first secret iteration. Like, think about it, right? S4 at the time was a mid laner, right?
Right.
And this is like years later, but basically Puppy revealed like we wanted S4 to play the off lane. At the time, he wanted S4 to play off lane because he was actually an off laner in Alliance, even though he was technically playing mid lane. Right?
To be fair, that's also the conclusion that S4 came to at some point too.
Yeah, but they figured it out like a year before S4 came to that conclusion, or 2 years before, whatever. Right? And then like basically like that's kind of the point. It's like they don't ever like there are actual roles in Dota that are like irrelevant to the lane you play. Like that's kind of like these are the concepts that a captain would never bother teaching his players because they don't ever need to know it.
And this is why I think having somebody like Heen coming into this team, just to bring that back, is so clutch because again, I keep bringing it back just to the lack of experience really because these players don't necessarily have the wealth of experience playing with international lineups. I mean, on a fundamental level, yeah, they have been to a lot of lands, but I think it's still different for somebody like Heen to come in just because he's played within so many different regions, right?
And here's the thing about Heen compared to a bunch of your regular captains, he will have. I think the only captain that might have more. Actually, no. I think straight up, Heen will probably get the most respect out of any captain right now. I mean, out of any coach outside of like Seb, who's obviously a player.
Yeah,
right?
pretty
Like
much.
in the West, at least in the West, outside of China. Like China's a different thing, but like that's the thing about Heen. Like not only does he have all the shit he can give to them, but like he goes into that TNC lineup, they're like, oh shit, that's a fucking TI winner. We gotta listen to what he says.
And it's honestly impressive that they are able to execute their new ideas as they are. And I think this is where the praise should go back to the players. Like the fact that they've been improving this drastically, this quickly, goes back to just how much talent these guys always had in them. And I mean,
they needed the right captain or leader.
Pretty much, like a lot of the things that they are displaying right now, they've always had and they've always shown every now and then. It's just being able to show this on such a consistent level. Showing it so consistently at such a high level. It's just something we've not seen from this roster thus far. So
yeah, like this is why I've always said like SEA's biggest problem was they needed a leader because I always thought they had the talent. But they didn't have the leader.
Yeah.
Maybe
more so impressive the fact that it's just with the captain is enough.
Yeah.
The coach is enough. Sorry, the coach is enough. That's to me is the most impressive part. The fact that, and again, this is why I want to bring back the praise to them. Like the fact like you can have the best coach in the world. It doesn't mean jack shit if the players in the server aren't able to execute on exactly what the philosophies are.
Like basically like there's two inherent like gateways here. if the players don't have the talent, this doesn't mean jack shit. You can't coach
Yeah.
bad players into good ones.
Yeah.
The other gateway is obviously, do the players listen to the captain, to the coach, and
Pretty much.
that's where like Heen gets his credit, kind of. He gets ideas and their ear, but the players have to execute, and I think that's why you have to keep praise on all the individual players, because I think these are legit. These have always been legitimately good players, but like they needed a Heen.
Honestly, and it is so crazy because I wouldn't be surprised if Heen after this TI run is gonna be like the most sought after like transfer in this industry.
You really think the Western guys need him though? Like I know Fnatic fucking needs him, but like
Fnatic needs him. So with OG, I'm a little bit.
like OG already have Seb and Notail. Like I don't know how much more he adds
Yeah,
to that.
they might not need him. I think there's a lot of teams that could benefit from his insight. It's just a question of like who's willing to listen to him.
Oh, I guess you can always like you can always just pay him for information. Tell me everything you know about Kuroki and his all his thoughts.
Basically just hire him for like every time you play against Liquid. You
Like,
want to talk about Vichis still?
all right, Vici, the guys who won, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I actually think like not to an extreme of degree, but I actually think ROTK is like a similar analogy here to Vici as Heen was to TNC, because I saw Vici play a lot without. Actually, I won't say Vici. I'll say Paparazzi and Ori. I saw those two play a lot without ROTK. And what do you know? You swap everybody out again, play around those two, but you bring in ROTK this time. All of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but like it took all year, but they've slowly, very slowly, been able to play together.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this team a lot on this podcast. How
It's because they have such potential. Ori and Paparazzi.
there's so much potential, and it's honestly it's impressive that that the organization has been holding on to these players for so long and just kept on believing in them, because there's so many. Like it would have been easy to sort of like just swap them out. Like China has like so many promising or quote unquote promising high carry or mid players that would have been easy to just swap either of them out and just try with the other one. But they believed so much in this duo, sort of similar to EG. I keep making uh, comparisons between them and EG, but I do think it's very appropriate.
But I think Vici figured it out. I can't say EG did.
Vici seems to have figured it out. Their support duo is just also phenomenal. DY and Fade, I think, have been very impressive this entire season, or for most of the season anyway.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I hope, for the sake of China and for the sake of these players, I hope this is it. That they have a team that. I feel like this is the team. Like if China wants to win TI this year, this has
is
to
the
be
team, right? And I don't know if he ever talked about this. Probably did, but I thought like going back to the LGD thing. I always thought they should try to steal Paparazzi. Should have taken Paparazzi for Ame if they could have, but obviously it's not possible. China being China.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. It's. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I was just very worried. Maybe, but again, I think Vici Gaming has been trying really hard to keep on to this, hold on to this lineup. I'm not sure if it was Ori or Paparazzi, but one of them they bought out for such a huge sum, and they bound him to like a 5-year contract or something, like similar to maybe in LGD, right?
Oh, it was one of those contracts.
Yeah.
Stay with us forever.
So Vici Gaming was hell bent on like keeping this roster together or keeping this duo together.
Well, I mean, if you when they were on the rise up, both of them were really good on their individual teams, so it made a lot of sense back then. But like I've seen them play for a long outside of this year, I saw them play for a long time. Like it just wasn't working for a long period of time.
And again, this is why I think you can only applaud Vici Gaming for holding on to them for this long, because for works here, people will be telling the tales of, oh yeah, this is like just a young roster they've been like cultivating for years. But I guess at the same time, if it doesn't work out this year, at the end of it, people will just be looking at, well, too stubborn.
So, I mean, they got 2 majors. That's
I guess
that's probably as good as China's gotten in the last few years. Like I guess LGD run was better actually last year, but like this year it's probably it's
Was
the
it though?
best run.
I'm not even sure if it was, to be honest.
Well, I'd say LGD was more consistent and had a higher peak than Vici did.
I guess, yeah.
Like I feel like going to TI, like LGD were clearly like a top 2 team. This Vici squad, like, yeah, they won the major, but like I think you run them into VP, run them to Liquid, run them into Secret again. I don't know if they'll win.
I just think it's a little bit weird to compare this season to the last one, just because
Everything is different.
Everything's so different. Last season had so many tournaments that it just feels so weird to say, all right, yeah, I mean, LGD did win 3 majors, I guess, or 2 majors or whatever, but they were all just like in quick succession, you know, like it's easy to ride a wave, I feel, rather than to like over the course of what Vici won this over the course of what 3 months, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of like maintained that for like 4 months.
I won't say they maintained it, right? Like they got it and then lost and then got it again.
Obviously, yeah.
That's kind of how that went.
True, but I still feel like this is a little bit. I don't know. To me personally, this is a little bit more admirable than what.
Like I think it depends. Like I think both skills are different.
Well, that's true.
Right. So, yeah. All right. I think about covers it for the major. Was there? All right. I guess I'll point this out. Virtus Pro is exactly what I thought they were. Just chilling until the right moment, until TI comes around. I always knew you guys are fucking amazing.
I think these guys realize that giving it their all throughout the entire year actually means jack shit for TI.
I mean, they already accomplished everything outside of TI. Like, yeah. Probably, like it's like I said, like argument is one of the greatest of all time lineups. These 5, sure.
I'm not even saying that they didn't even try at this event, because I'm sure playing in front of the home crowd means a lot to them. But like, I feel like if Virtus Pro really cared about, like, if this was the tournament they had to win, the different Virtus Pro would have shown up. You could tell the moment they lost to the Lions in the first round.
It depends. Like, here's the thing. Like, I think if they really care, they choke.
Well, yeah, true.
If they really care, they're fucking amazing. But if they really care, they choke. Like I said, they choke in the summer. They melt in the summer, as the PPD puts it.
All right. Gotta relocate or reschedule TI for the winter.
Yeah, maybe that'll help them. All right. Think about covers it for
Dota.
Let's go to ESL One Cologne. This is
starts in like 7 hours or something, right? Or like 10 hours, 12 hours or something.
Something like that. Starts in the middle of the night for me. Basically, I think I straight up called it like the unofficial third major of the year.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the ESL guys loved it because they all think it's great or whatever. But like I straight up think this is like probably going to be the unofficial third major of the year, just because I don't think any other tournament's going to get all of the best teams like this one did.
Pretty much. I'm trying to think if there's like a team that I would say it's missing, but
there's only 2 teams. G2, who made that crazy run at the last tournament.
You couldn't have really predicted that either.
And here's the thing: if Liquid had accepted the invite instead of playing the fucking qualifier, G2 would all be here also.
G2 would have been here, yeah.
So it's really still Blast's fault at the end.
It really is, isn't it?
And then North, but you know, I think North was bad when the qualifiers were around or something. So
whatever, I don't give a fuck about North.
Hey, Valde is turning out to be pretty decent.
Honestly, I'd rather see Koreans play CS than see North play. So
well, I mean, Koreans are playing CS at this tournament, so
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm actually pretty hyped about the MVP. Not hyped, but like
no, there's like here's the thing: if there were weaker teams, this is like a typical premiere. Like I think like they could maybe make a decent run. Like this one, their group is like ridiculous or some bullshit.
Well, I mean. Well, like we mentioned, though, this is like the most stacked event of the year, or one of the most stacked events of the year. So any group would have been ridiculous anyway, realistically speaking. So yeah, what do you want to start?
All right. Well, I gotta open Wikipedia on my phone because my browser is for some reason not loading. But let's see here. You want to go by groups or you want to go just random teams?
Sure. Let's just go by groups. We can talk about the matchups too then.
All right. So Liquid versus MVP. Like I said, if it was any other tournament, I think MVP is gonna fucking die.
And it is a best of 1, right?
Yeah, best of 1.
Yeah.
Like
rough, man.
Like all right, here's I'll create a scenario of a situation where MVP could potentially win. They have to get the best of 1 to Vertigo somehow, which I don't think Liquid will allow. and then maybe they have a chance because I think Vertigo is like such a weird map
Vertigo is such a weird map.
that
Dude,
I
I want MVP to come into this tournament and be like the best Vertigo team we've ever seen.
just I don't even know how that's possible. Like maybe they'll fucking revolutionize that one map, but be bad on the
Yeah,
rest.
it'd be so hilarious. I
That
don't
would be
know.
pretty funny. But yeah, no, I think Liquid are gonna win this, and I think I think we both agree Liquid is the best team in the world, right?
They are most likely to win this entire tournament. Yes.
Yeah, and I think like I wrote an article about it. Basically, like his team can basically win all the historical accolades or like be among them, be one of the best all time teams we've seen, win majors, create an era, all that shit.
I was about to say this is the beginning of their era right now. Like if they take this home with them too, aren't they? Aren't they? They just like won. Wait, if they win this, do they have the Grand Slam?
Yeah, I think Grand Slam's done.
Yeah.
Like
So
the Grand Slam's done, and that's like I don't know if you ever saw this article I wrote, but basically I imagine an alternate timeline where the Grand Slam was around since the beginning of CS, and it is an
Right.
alternate timeline, right? Like basically just follow the results, and I use the same criteria. Like either you're either like one of the ESL One Cologne tournaments, or
Or
you
IEM.
were or you won like the big DreamHack tournaments. But obviously
Right.
Masters didn't exist back then, so I instead included the majors, which obviously
Right.
if it existed, they would have obviously put it in the majors, right?
Oh,
So-
of course, of course.
So you put that in, right? And basically, here are the teams that won the Grand Slam. Fnatic. And here's the thing: NIP like got ruined by Fnatic multiple times
Yeah.
for the Grand Slam. So too bad for them. Fnatic, SK slash LG, LG slash SK. Like I asked them, like basically they told me after I published it because I didn't know if it was like orgs or lineups. It was pairing lineups that win it, so they would have won it too. Because they were like my unofficial second champion. Third is Astralis. Fourth's probably going to be Liquid.
Yeah. They
Right?
are-
That's pretty fucking good company.
It's the best kind of company you could ask for,
Right.
and especially considering how quick they're gonna get it too, if they do get it here.
Yeah, like basically Astralis just chilling out, just gave Liquid the free
Free.
ride to the top.
Yeah, just easiest money of Liquid's life, really.
Yeah, and basically like I think it if you win the major or you win Cologne, really obvious era instantly.
Instantly, and we're about to witness it. I don't know. Yeah, they play in CS, so I hope they win this tournament.
Yeah.
Would be cool for them, but
Right.
you know they're in good company to end. So
Next one, Navi versus Mouse, and this one's really interesting because Navi made a roster change. They finally
They
did the
did.
impossible. They slayed the Revenant. We call Edward, and they have replaced him with Boomiel, or I'm not exactly Boom. I'm
Black?
gonna just call him Boom. I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it right. But basically, as far as I can tell, they finally realized Edward was bad at his job. I don't know why it took them this long to realize it, but whatever. They realized Edward was bad at his job because because if you're looking at Edward, he was basically like their entry fragger, and like he wasn't even like a sacrificial entry fragger. And what I mean by like
Right.
sacrificial is like he's not like running around like MSL style, like dying for the sake of config or whatever. Like he was like he was basically like running like aerial or fur or like a leash sometimes, like these types of roles, and he was like failing at them. And basically that's like a critical role in if you want to be a top team. And they replaced him. I don't actually know how good Boom is at this job, but gotta be better than Edward.
it's one of these things where you're glad that they made this roster change finally. Definitely too late, but finally they made a roster change. Whether or not it's the roster change remains to be seen. Arguments to be made that they might need another one sometime down the road, but yeah, hopefully it's. I don't know. It's always difficult for me. It's always difficult to gauge like how much one change is really going to change in a team that was so fundamentally flawed in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
I
like
say that because like, are you really gonna tell me that the whole like everything hinged on the fact that that Edward didn't do his job? But then at the same time, there's ripple effects with these kind of types of changes too that go from like role to role. So we'll see. But to me, Mousesport's still the superior team in that matchup, generally speaking.
Yeah,
But it's the best of one.
but there's this dude named Simple. I don't know if you know him, but like this dude named Simple, he once carried 2 dead bodies to a championship. Actually, did it multiple times.
And he does love Esl One Cologne.
And he is straight up the best player we've ever seen. And here's the thing, like Mouse play a pretty individualistic style. And if you run Wassic into Simple, you run Rops into Simple, you run Frozen into Simple, Simple's gonna win all of them.
Yep, that's
Simple's
true.
gonna eat them all up, right? And all you need is just Simple to go off one time, and he goes off all the fucking time, right? Like maybe if this is best of 3, maybe I'd side with Mouse. Actually, I probably would, just because I don't know that much about this new Navi team. But fucking Simple in a best of 1, can I really bet against that?
You're very, very right. It's
like here's the thing, Simple only there have only been like in the last year, there's only been 2 teams that have shut down Simple. Astralis and Liquid.
Well, there's also the occasional where he shuts himself down.
Like that's so rare though.
I know. I'm just saying.
Like I don't know if I've ever
Wait. There's 3 teams that have been able to shut him down.
Navi,
Astralis, Liquid, and Navi.
No, like I don't know if I've ever shown you it, but basically I have like a fucking like a release objective stats page, and basically like Simple like shows up like 90% of his games.
Yeah.
And basically, if you're like at 70%, you're a superstar.
And even despite Navi's best efforts, he still manages to like win games by himself effectively. So, no, it's definitely difficult to shut him down. But I don't know. It's difficult. I do agree with you. Just because it's a best of 1, it almost feels like you should root for Simple. But I think I'm still going with Mouse Sports just because I really have no clue how this roster change is going to work out for them.
All right. Let's go to Mouse Sports. So this is a team that I think. Oh shit, man! I think Kerrigan's gonna do it. I think he's already gotten his revenge on Nico and FaZe. I think he's gonna do it again. I think he's gonna be like, I think at the tournament he's gonna print out a page of the HLTV rankings. Like, look at that, Nico. What's that say? Mal's above FaZe, or whatever bullshit he's gonna do. Because I think he's going. I think he's about to do it again. I think he's about to create. I don't know if he can like pull this team into like a top 3 contention, but top 4, top 5, right outside the championship contenders. I think he's right on the way.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. The way they've sort of like been improving and the trajectory of this team right now, that feels like it. It feels like they're about a year away from kicking him.
Jesus Christ, it's true. But listen, man, like Kerrigan just needs to write like a fucking history book of like what happened to. Actually, no, that's not work because it's like basically it's like 50-50 so far. Like FaZe obviously is not doing well, but like the fucking Astralis thing with Glaive. But I guess how many Glaives are there? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Right? How many Glaives are there really? So we will see.
I'm looking forward to this team to see this team play. I'm just excited about this whole tournament, man. Like,
yeah, fucking every matchup's super interesting because FaZe versus Renegades is next, and I think this one's almost purely dependent on map pick. Right? Like, what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah. I think Renegades is a team that I think to my surprise has improved actually a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's a best of 1, but like you said, it's most likely map pick dependent too. But I do think that generally speaking in this tournament, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see them in the playoffs if they did somehow make it. Like, I don't think necessarily they are a playoff team in this group, especially because you have to be like top 3 in this team.
Yeah, you have to be top 3, so they gotta do like a bunch of killers here.
Yeah, they would probably have to like outperform NRG, Furia, and FaZe to make it. I just see Liquid and Mousesports probably at the actual. I don't know. There's so many teams that have to outperform.
Energy, Furia, FaZe.
Let's just say, depending on the run, I wouldn't necessarily be super surprised to see them in the playoffs, but at the same time, I don't rate their chances that high either, just because I think there are other teams that are currently on the cusp of like being even better. Fury to me is actually a team that I think has a really good chance of making playoffs here.
I think they might be figured out, but
Maybe
we'll talk about that later. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, Renegades in that particular matchup, I think I generally still favor FaZe, but if it was a best of 3, I'd probably actually put my eggs into Renegades basket. I think.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I actually think I'm gonna go ahead and go with Renegades here, because here's the thing: when I look at FaZe's map pool, think about it. I don't really remember them being a good overpass team. They don't play train, as far as I know. Their Marge is all right.
Yeah.
Their Inferno's all right. Don't play.
Pretty
For some reason, they played Vertigo, but it's not very good. Nuke is kind of eh. Dust 2's pretty good.
Yeah.
So and Renegades, they actually play everything as far as I know except Vertigo. So ban Dust 2, ban Vertigo, and then I think the rest of the map pool is kind of in their favor. Like I think here's the thing about this phase, like nobody outside of Nico is really consistently showing up.
That's 100% true.
So if but the problem with like going with Renegades is like they had this weird period where Gratisfaction didn't get his fucking visa, couldn't get his visa from America,
and then they couldn't even play with them.
And couldn't play with them, so they weren't able to practice, weren't able to like continue to grind. Now they've had some time off since then, and so I'm betting on the fact that Azur and Kassad put this team back on track. Because if they put this team back on track, and if JKS is still like a top 10-ish player, I think they should win. Right? I think they should win in general. So, and I think their map pool is better, so I'm gonna go with Renegades.
How do you feel about them overall in this group?
Here's the problem with this group. There are so many X factors. How's Navi simple with boom whatever is going? How's that gonna go work out? I don't know. Furia, fucking dangerous upset team. Super fucking dangerous upset team. NRG with Stanislaw, like
no clue how they're going.
That's like a fucking flip of the coin. They could be fucking amazing. Or, oh look, we're back to Optic. Or they'd be fucking terrible. Oh look, we're back to Optic. Actually, both the versions.
That's so accurate. It's incredible.
Like who the fuck knows this NRG team, man? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Like, there's so many coin flips in here. I feel like the only thing we know is that MVP is going to be last, most likely.
It's not even MVP's fault. Like MVP, like as far as I know, like the one guy who I trusted in is like fucking Asia, is Bled, right? He's pretty hyped about this team. I was like, look at this fucking group. It's like it doesn't matter how hyped he is. Like this fucking dude is a killer.
I feel like the only other thing we know is that Liquid is most likely going to be first here, but even that's not necessarily a given considering.
Like I could see somebody upsetting them once in a best of 3. It's not possible. Yeah, not impossible.
Same. So I don't know. This is an insane group. Furia, you mentioned that they might be figured out.
Right. So I don't know if you saw it, right? But basically, there was a small LAN after their like 2 good runs. I think they got second at ECS, right, and then they got like a top 4, top 6 at DreamHack Dallas. I forget the exact placing right now.
Right.
But then they went to a small LAN. I'm pretty sure you completely missed Mocha XL Esports. And
I definitely missed that. Yeah.
And basically, you're going to hear a name you haven't heard in a long time, but basically Existence, the old French leader. He has assembled a team that I basically call the French Foreign Legion, and he's assembled a team of exiles from like a bunch of different players.
Oh, that's Scream team.
Yeah, he's got Scream, and he's got HS, and he's got Hampus, and he's got a bunch of weird players, right? And I looked at this and I was thinking, there's no way he's going to get anything out of this. But he beat and upset Furia at a best of 3. Whew. And I looked through those VODs, and basically, I'm almost certain he counter-stranded a bunch of fucking tendencies that Furia has. And he also definitely counter-stranded the fucking map veto.
Now the question is, did everybody else see this?
And it became kind of big news because like everybody's like, oh, Furia, they're gonna fucking win this, and Existence like, fuck you, right? And then Existence and obviously Existence's team like went to the next stage. Obviously didn't have the exact same prep time for the next team, got fucking bombed out. Basically, it just tells me Existence is a fucking god at counter-stratting apparently. But if you don't give him time to do it, it doesn't fucking matter. Which actually makes Gamer Legion a hilarious team if he ever goes to a LAN, because like the first team that meets him might get screwed over just because he counter stressed them.
Just because he has so many counter shots prepared, yeah.
But at least in Furia, like I saw a bunch of like small tendencies like he basically abused. Like if you go to Inferno, there's this Vinny, right? He like the whole thing about him was he always rushes down B. Like not always, but he does it a bunch of times. And if he went and basically like the other players follow him, and so there are like a bunch of different strategies that different bunch of teams were using to try to stop this. Like there's like a crossfire from sandbags and from top of B and whatever, and flashes and smokes and HEs or whatever. But like it was going 50-50. Basically, what Existence Day is like, okay, so we're going to time this Molly at the exact moment they're rushing down B, and it will isolate Vinny from the rest of his team, and then Vinny will have to push forward because that's who he is as a person.
Right.
And then he will look towards the site. I don't actually know if this is an actual counter strike. If he knows Vinny will look towards the site or not, because I don't actually look through I don't look through the demos. That's the information you only get from the demos. And then Existence speaks out, instantly kills him because like the fucking crosshairs on the other side. And I was thinking in my mind like, wow, this is clearly a counter strat, and just kept doing this bullshit all the way through Inferno. So I'm just saying like if Existence can do it, I think if you have a legit good CS mind on your team, other teams might be able to pull it out.
That said, though, because this happened to Furia before Esl One Cologne, this is something that could have obviously not like completely gotten rid of or worked out, but this is something that they can now address themselves. Like, hey,
yes, if they themselves. Like, we don't know how good of a leader Art is, though. That's my question.
And we don't know if, like, we
don't know how good his coach is either. Like, so.
But just generally speaking, this could work out into Furia's favor even.
Yeah, but luckily, here's the thing about this particular matchup, though. I know I'm a pet kind of does that shit. Pretty sure Stanislaw doesn't. Like, that's my guess. I'm pretty sure Stanislaw... Stanislaw never struck me as like a counter strat kind of guy.
Nope. I'm pretty sure he actually said so himself in an interview. Actually,
he said so in an interview, which doesn't mean like he won't counter. He won't necessarily prep, but like he will do like large macro changes in his game sometimes. But like that's a different kind of area.
Right.
And I don't really know what the fuck to expect from NRG, to be honest. Because here's the thing. I don't think there's any way it's going to be a 1-for-1 role swap between Stanislaw and Daps.
No, I don't think so either.
Because Daps did not play anything close to Stanislaw. I think Stanislaw's best role was always Lurker.
Yeah.
So here's the problem with that, though. Breezy is their Lurker. Or maybe Ethan at times. Depends on the map, right? So like I'm not exactly certain how they're going to break it down. But basically, yeah, go ahead.
To me personally, I think the easiest would be if I had to coach this team, I think the easiest for me would be to say, because there was such a short time with this team, right? At EPL they couldn't even play with Stan. Mm-hmm. They had to play with Daps.
But like Stan was there practicing with them. So.
Stan was there practicing with them, so they did have that time, I suppose. But I think the easiest would be to just slot Stan into where Daps was before, and then take that time that they're now going to have after Esl One Cologne if they want to prep for the major. There's going to be like a boot camp period for everybody, like 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, prior to the major and after the player break or whatever, where they can then figure out what's the best for the team. Because I feel like to disrupt everything just to make sure he gets to be the one to lurk might not be the best course of action.
No, I don't think it is at all.
At the same time, though, if he values himself that highly as a lurker, and I think he was actually like really, really strong for complexity.
Like here's the reason why I think they might consider it. I don't think he was. I think he fundamentally got worse and worse as time went on Liquid when he wasn't allowed to play his best role.
That's true.
And as far as I know, actually Nitro came out with an interview like later, basically saying the reason he became in-game leader was specifically to enable Stanislaw as a player again. Right? And so I don't like. Well, we don't have enough data, but basically, if that's like a consistent tendency with him, then basically what's going to happen is after the honeymoon phase, he might get worse than Daps because he was really fucking bad at the end of that liquid thing. So
Right.
we'll see. But actually, I don't know if that makes him worse than Daps or not because what Daps isn't like that great of a individual player, all things considered. I will say this because they basically had a really good run. They beat Astralis and whatnot. If they don't make a run here, who knows what the fuck's gonna happen to this fucking team? It's dangerous.
I mean,
Because like
in
here's the
general-
thing: is like not only is it internal, but like external, they're gonna get a lot of heat if they don't do well here.
Well, this group is certainly not easy to perform well in.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the next group is going to be any different, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Well, maybe, but
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, final thoughts: top three: Liquid, Mouse, and
probably gonna go with Phase. I'll be honest.
I'm gonna go with Liquid,
Um,
Mouse, and Navi. I just gotta believe in Simple. I gotta do it. But
I want to believe in Simple, simply because I think having him on stage would be more fun than having anybody else on stage.
yeah, I still think he's the most entertaining player in any game right now. So
100%, 100%.
yeah, those are my three. We'll see how it goes down. Let's go to the next one. Astralis and Big. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Big consistently pulls out flukes out Cologne. I don't know how they do it. I mean,
It's
I
the
technically-
German spirit.
yeah, I don't know why Gabiz only pulls it out for. Actually, it doesn't only pull it out for Cologne, but a lot of times he pulls it out for Cologne. But not even he can fucking save Big this time because their team is fucking awful. I just don't believe in it. So
This is the worst iteration of this roster for a long time right now.
yeah,
Not necessarily in terms of like raw like names, just in terms of like the state they're in.
don't they have fucking Dennis though? But actually,
Well,
it's just true.
yeah.
They had worse names before that. They had Legia in the game. So
Yeah. I mean, they technically still have him, right? He's a coach, isn't he?
I think they switched coaches at some point.
Did they?
Yeah.
All right. Either way, yeah. I have zero expectations for this team at this event.
Yeah.
Um.
Basically, basically all the hype I had for Gabi as a leader has kind of died off in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Pretty much ever since Muya left.
Yeah. And
Coincidence?
listen, man, Smooya apparently literally benched himself, and like everybody
did.
fucking hates him now.
He did, and he regrets his decision.
You can tell Big is desperate in the sense that I think there was like a report saying they were considering putting Smooya back in, and this is a guy who literally left them high and dry for the biggest event of their lives.
Yeah.
So that's how desperate Big is. Like I think they're gonna go out last here for sure.
I agree with you. I just don't see them doing anything really in this group.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the next one. MIBR Fnatic. MIBR recently did a roster change, kicked out Phelps for Lucas. Right? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you did allude to Fallen's playbook. I'm not sure if he still uses his own playbook these days.
Basically, here's the thing about Fallen's playbook. It is actually impossible for him to use now because buyouts in Brazil are like 200,000 or some bullshit.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
he can't get all the pieces he wants. Like if he had his way,
he'd already have one of the Furia players. He already won a K-Star
at
auto.
least one. So yeah, it's a rough situation for MIBR. I think they made the sort of best decision they could have made given the scenario, but
In the interim,
doesn't feel like this is gonna solve anything. We'll see. I suppose. I don't know. I definitely think Phelps needed to go, but at the same time, there's so many fundamental things that they needed to change. I think.
Yeah, I wrote I'm writing an article or wrote an article. Depends how you look at it. We'll see. But basically, I think if you look at MIBR, there are three fundamental problems. The first one you can't fix, which is basically Fallen can't do his like fucking crazy roster changes anymore.
Right.
And the other fundamental problems is like they have they have two inherent ideas they don't question. The first is they have to play to the SK style. And the reason I say like this is an inherent like problem is because last year when they had Stewie, 2K, and Tarek, they should have played towards a very loose, aggressive, individualistic style. And instead, they reverted those two into playing the SK style, which obviously failed. Their other inherent problem is they believe Fur is a superstar. And he is not a superstar. He hasn't been for like a year and a half.
For the longest time now, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I can't believe in this team because of those two inherent problems. I actually think like I still think Taco is actually a really good support player, but it's not like he's gonna fucking carry the game. It's not like Zitnix or some bullshit, right?
Nope.
Fallen, like you can't like I think he was way overrated in 2017, and I think that's continued to prove true. Like here's the thing about Fallen. Like people in their minds, like when they think of Fallen in his prime in 2016, they think the reason he was the best because he was like mechanically the best. No, the reason I think he was the best is because I think he brought a new style of play that nobody had ever countered before with his op, and he had a huge informational advantage in that. But the second they took away that informational advantage, he's only really great in one aspect of opping, which is clutching. And I still think he has that, but that's not a reliable way to win.
It's not. It's really not. And
so basically,
yeah,
if it was up to me, I think you kick out Fur Phelps, get Yuri and Caserado.
That'd be sick, but you know.
But obviously, like those guys are on a 5-year contract now, so
yeah. They are F in the
like here's the other fundamental thing they could have done, but they obviously didn't do. You kick Fur, move Phelps into the superstar position, give him a try, and then get somebody else. But obviously they didn't do that, so.
I guess worth noting then the other side of that Fnatic.
So basically, they're exactly what I thought they'd be.
Mediocre at best.
Basically, I think Exist was never that great of an in-game leader, and it's kind of proven out. Like if you look at all of Fnatic's best runs, it's all based off of mostly individual play.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, suddenly JW is back in form. Oh, suddenly
look, Crimson JW, the Broland. Oh, they're kicking ass. Right, and then when they don't kick ass, you get bombed out in last place. Right. And so basically, this best of one is going to be decided purely by Fnatic. Do they show up? They can beat MIBR. If they don't show up, MIBR will beat them. It's kind of how I see it.
Sounds about right.
But they have to like not show up at a huge, tremendous level because MIBR is not looking good right now.
Which makes this matchup really weird.
Yeah.
Like it's just a question of like, yeah, I'll probably give the edge to MIBR.
Yeah, I'll go with Fnatic, I guess. Like MIBR is just so depressing. Like I don't know, it just makes me sad.
True. That's true.
Who knows? I don't. It goes either way. They're like. Here's the thing about Fnatic compared to MIBR is like, technically MIBR has a crazy ceiling, but they will never reach it because I don't think Fur will ever get there again. JW might reach it randomly.
That's true. No, that's true. And we've seen this run. Was it a Cologne? No, I don't think it was Cologne.
Like we've seen it kind of recently, like it was like Sydney or something, but it's possible. Why not? All right. Next one is Vitality versus NIP. So, Vitality.
They are playing with Plopsky, right?
Yeah, NIP is playing with Plopsky.
All right. Well,
which one do you want to go for first?
Vitality, yeah. Let's go with Vitality.
Basically, the French Revolution has succeeded, and the leader turned out to be Alex. He has come out of the Reign of Terror. He has established the Directorate with him at the helm. NBK as a second, and I don't know who their coach is, but that guy's third or whatever. The Triumvirate has been established. Right, but basically, I wrote an entire article because I think when I was talking about Vitality, I think they're a top 3 team in the world. But like the way people talk about them, they think like Zaiwu is like this one-man army, or he's like in a simple situation. Which, like, listen, I think he's like straight up the best player on their team. I think he's a superstar player. I think he's the most important player. but I actually think this team has like legitimate tactics and structure and shit. So
I was about to say, I mean, there's a reason why they actually played, like the way they are playing right now, like the way they climbed their way up was a very consistent climb. Whereas with Navi, it's mostly just like, oh, this tournament simple entered God mode ×2. That's why they won. Oh,
look,
this tournament Flamey decided not to be shit, or Electronic decided to also be a god, and then suddenly you have two gods. Like, there's so many random factors to Navi, whereas for me, with Vitality, this has been like steady progression, where they've had the fundamentals for a long time, and they've been continuously working on them, and now they have a pretty good focused strats, and they are. I mean, yeah, with this team, but I wouldn't write off anybody else on this team either.
Yeah, so like I think they're very good. I think I think they're probably the third best team. I still think I'd edge it to Ents as the second best team. But here's the thing: I think Vitality have a funny may have a funny sort of head-to-head advantage against Liquid, maybe. And what I mean by that is like they're not afraid to play Vertigo into Liquid, so there's like an option there.
True.
I think their nuke is probably better than Liquid's, straight up, but not by that much. So that could go either way. And I think MBK on the CT side could definitely have some fucking. I think he might have some weird read on Liquid, because like if you look at their matchup at CS Summit, he basically called out Liquid like 3 times in a row on their CT side, and basically he did like a 4-1 setup where like the 4 players on overpass, like the other 4 players on overpass, like did super aggressive mid and long takes while he just held B by himself. And basically he bet 3 times in a row Liquid are not gonna go B. Liquid did not go B 3 times in a row. Tells me maybe MBK might have a read.
I have a good read, yeah. No, I agree with you, and I'm just glad to see French CS sort of like climb their way back to the top again. With considering G2 was also pretty, at least had that run. Whether or not how much that means, we'll see.
Like I think the G2 has a pretty they have a pretty good system too, but like theirs is fundamentally different from Vitality's. Like Vitality's is closer to a democracy, and then G2 is basically like a two king system, like all the from bottom to top. It's really weird. But
this is why I think Vitality's system is also more sustainable, and this is why I think they are so much more ahead than G2, and but also just like one of the best teams in the world right now, because their system works fundamentally.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited for them. As for NIP, like I think this is like a dead tournament for them in the sense like I don't think they straight up said they're looking for a replacement for Get Right, so they're just gonna play whatever.
Pretty much. I have no expectations for this team going forward, neither here nor at the major, because if you're already 100% sure you're gonna replace a player, like how in the world are you supposed to play with this lineup?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I did say this. Listen, if Get Right's going out, just give him his fucking rules. Just let him do whatever the fuck he wants. Just let him go out like Kobe or something. Just drop 60 and then peace out. I'm done, or whatever. But we'll see. We will see.
We will see.
Last matchup: Heroic versus Ents. Heroic is kind of funny in the sense like they got all the young Danes, and the young Danes are pretty good as it turns out. I think they're a dangerous subset team, but I'm not expecting much of them just because this tournament is fucking stacked. They're kind of like a similar position to MVP we talked about, like pretty good, pretty decent hype around them, but like you just happen to be running into like the hardest tournament of the year, or one of them. So can't do much about that.
Obviously, there's a little bit more potential behind them than MVP, I think. In terms of like how far they could go. Like they could maybe upset a best of 3, not necessarily against Ents, but if they drop down now and then maybe like play like. Honestly, if they play like NIP, it's not that difficult to beat NIP at this stage.
Yeah.
Fnatic is also Fnatic or MIBR is also
Fnatic and MIBR big. Like they could go decently.
Yeah.
Like this is the easier group of the two, because I think the smaller teams are like weaker, but yeah. But I think they still have upset potential against some of the better teams. Maybe not the best of 3 stage, but yeah. As for Ents, I think they're the second best team in the world. What do you think?
Pretty much. I haven't seen them
playing a bit,
but generally speaking, they should still be the second best team in the world.
Yeah, I think.
I actually just look forward to see them play against Vitality at this stage.
Yeah, that would be
assuming both of them win their best of ones. They should play against each other right away, which would be pretty hype.
Yeah, number 2 versus number 3.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think Thorin said it, but like I did write an article like Lexi B is like a fucking good tactical leader, right? Really good leader.
Yeah.
So he might arguably the best in the world right now, considering the fact that like he basically took like a bunch of unproven talent outside of Alu and made them the second best team in the world. So
You have to be good at something to make that happen for sure.
right. So yeah, what are your top 3 teams that are coming out of this?
Astralis, Ents, Vitality.
Yeah, same.
Not in that order. Probably like Ents, Astralis, Vitality, because
Just
Ents
because
and Vitality
Ents
are
and
gonna.
Vitality run into each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you. I will say this though, Astralis are looking kind of weak. Like we didn't go over that much because they played against Big, but I think
That's true, but they looked very weak at the what was it called, EPL?
like they got taken out by Furia. They got taken out by NRG.
Yeah.
They're weak. And I want to point out something funny about Astralis and the whole Blast thing. Is if you look at all the great teams, it doesn't even matter if it's CS:GO or not. There's 3 fundamental stages to every great team or every great player. The first is the rise up. The second is when they dominate the field by usually with a paradigm shift. What I mean, paradigm shift is like they define the meta, or they fight, or like they become the best of their particular style, and they
Right.
dominate. And people have to figure out how you're supposed to beat them. And then the third shift is their fall from grace. And usually the fall from grace is like that weird twilight moment where like they're still great, but people are kind of figuring them out, but they hang on because there's like an inherent greatness to them. Like people are still maybe afraid of them, or there's like something incredibly clutch about them that like makes them continue to be great. Like Alliance in Dota 2, like they fell from grace, but every once in a while you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, this team still got it, or whatever. Right? Or like Fnatic. Fnatic definitely had that. Actually, when Fnatic went down in their broken period, they took a major with them. They took the major with them as they were falling down from grace.
And then they still had their moments where everybody was like, "Oh God, Fnatic, don't do this again." Plush, I remember, and it kind of it's.
Yeah, like they like there's like moments like that, right? But like in this, Astralis missed their entire moment because they were just off chilling playing Blast tournaments.
And I feel like that took a lot of the respect away from them. The fact that they just, we talked about this, how like certain teams have like this aura of like dominance around them, where people almost go into the game with the mentality of not being able to win. Basically,
there's a fear
they lost
there.
that, and they lost that and all that respect as well. And it almost feels like, I honestly think if Astralis was in Group A, I'm not even sure they would make it out of it.
I would not pick them to get out if they were Group A.
No.
I think they're just like not too vulnerable right now. And I will say this: tactically, strategically, they're fine, but they're no longer defining the meta, right? So you're no longer defining the meta. That kind of hurts you. The Og Krieg is in full power, and your players outside of Device and Magisk aren't that good against them. I think Dupree and Glaive have both fallen off, and I think it's a direct result of those 2 guns. And here's the thing: they're both the aggressive players on that team. Well, there's no aggression on that team after they've been taken out, right?
Yeah.
And I think basically, like, I won't say Zitnix is getting exposed. I think he's just returning to the mean. Like, you literally cannot win every clutch of your life.
Right.
He is probably the greatest clutch player we've ever seen. It doesn't mean he's got like 100% clutch rate. That's like,
I was about to say, yeah.
Like, that's not possible. It's not like if that was like that was legitimately true. Like that should be your actual tactic. Everybody go die and then Zitnix go win us a 1vx or whatever. But like, it's not true. Like, that's like a bonus. You can't build a team around that.
Build a team around hoping that he just clutches every 1v2.
Yeah, like that's not possible. Come on, man. You can't expect that. So yeah, I think Astralis are in dire straits. And then here's the thing about the fear thing. Like, one last thing about it. Like how do I explain it? I'm not sure if you ever watched Brood War, right? But basically, there's this famous like I guess Brood War finals from the OSLs from July Zerg, right? This is like one of the first esports games I ever watched. It's always stuck with me since then. Basically, just the story is Jelizerg has won two OSLs, but they were in different time periods. Like one was in his prime, and they won it again in his second prime, and then this third one was like way after his prime. It was like years after his prime, and it was in like one of the most competitive eras ever. Actually, it wasn't the most competitive era ever for Brood War, and basically he kind of lucked out, and he got the right bracket or whatever, and he gets to the finals, and I don't know if you know enough about StarCraft, but basically he does this really cheesy move where it's like a 4-player map and it's random spawn, and he gets the bottom right spawn against the opponent's top right spawn, and his Overlord goes over there. And here's the move. Basically, the way the map is functioned, there's like two neutral buildings, and then you put a unit in there to like block it off, and that's your wall off, right?
Oh, okay.
And so this is what he does. The second, like, because like the Dragoon is like blasting the shit out of his Overlord, so it's like dying. The second he sees a mineral patch, he takes like half of his drones and clicks on the mineral patch, right? And basically what this does is it glitches the drones, so they go through the unit that's like in the blockade, and then once he gets to the blockade, he glitches out the Dragoon and then rushes best, and then rushes him with Zerglings. And it's like a drone drill. It's like, and basically it's like the ballsiest plague, and it can't even be pre-planned because it's a random spawn. And he only had like a split second to do it, and he decisively did it, and it literally broke Best's mind for the best of 5, and he just stole it, right? He just fucking stole it instantly, right? And basically, what's funny about this story is like a player who was legitimately one of the greatest of all time was like outside of this, and he's like a Kong. He's like a guy who's like never won the finals. But he was like straight up like third or fourth best player, or at times he was a third or fourth best player, but he could beat 1, 2, and 3 in any situation outside of the finals. So he's kind of similar to Liquid, right? And basically he was watching this and he realized, how the fuck is this washed up old pro winning a title before me? And they just kind of came to the realization that it was like a psychological thing. And basically Astralis threw away all their psychological advantage.
100%. They had most matches they had won before the server even loaded up. That's how people were scared of them. You know, the looming new win streak, or the win streak in general. Like, people were just like so intimidated by them. But now it's like, all right, who gets to beat them next, or like who gets to punish them next? You know,
who gets that delicious win against Astralis, right? Like, here's the thing, like, I forget, but basically Fallen had an interview with Thorn. It's like a Reflections interview where he kind of talks about this happening to his team back in the day, where like his team would freeze up in fear against the Fnatic, the Dennis version, even though they were technically playing as a better team. They just freeze up. And then it happened on the reverse side when Simple's liquid runs at the majors, and they figured out Simple was choking because he was afraid of them, right? But like, nobody's afraid of Astralis, and basically, like, if you're not, basically they missed that entire like run, and as a fan, it's obviously like really sad because I think that's like the best part of the greatness run is when they're falling off, but like they pull off some miraculous shit. It's like, fuck yes.
Yeah, they're still clinging on to everything, but no, they kind of like skipped all that and they're just bad.
Yeah, or falling off. Like, they're the problem. I don't think they'll ever drop out of the top 10. Like, I think maybe they'll get good enough to maybe get back in the top 5. But they missed that greatness run, so it's just sad.
Pretty much.
All right, I think about covers it. Liquid win, right? Who do you have a second?
Ents.
Yeah.
Maybe Vitality.
Ents or Vitality.
I think it kind of depends out. It depends on how like the brackets play out too. It's difficult to call right now because odds are Liquid has to play Ents in like the semifinals.
Liquid has to play one of them in the semifinals, probably.
Yeah.
So whoever doesn't play Liquid will meet them in the finals.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, though, like, even though Liquid's obviously the favorite, they're not like an Astralis favorite. So, not like Astralis in the prime. So, it's possible they can get upset here. I just want to see the bounty. Activated.
The Grand Slam.
Yeah, if somebody beats them in the finals, they get a bounty.
Curious if Intel is going to return with a Grand Slam if Liquid just snatches it in like 4
Yeah, why
Cool
not?
tournament.
It's such a sick story. So
It is actually a pretty cool story. I'm a big fan of the Grand Slam.
Yeah, it's worked out great. All right,
Yeah.
that's about it. You got any final words?
No. Actually, yeah. Check out my podcast on my YouTube every
Yeah.
now and then. That's pretty much it.
Probably want to plug in your YouTube
I
channel.
don't even.
Basically,
don't
just look up his Twitter, Skim Gaming.
Just look up. Yeah. Just look me up on Twitter.
All right, see you guys later.